I always figured the land would outlive me. Hell, maybe that's why I poured every damn piece of myself into it. Sweat, blood, a couple teeth I never bothered to look for once they fell into the dirt. After running with the Iron Vipers MC for more than 2 decades, a man learns to recognize 2 things: the sound of an ambush and the quiet mercy of open land. My ranch was the only place where the world didn't feel like it was trying to gut me. 50 acres of sun-baked soil, one crooked barn older than my sins, and a small house I rebuilt with calloused hands that shook less when holding a hammer than when holding a whiskey bottle. It wasn't much, but it was mine, or at least I thought it was. Caleb never understood that kind of connection. My younger brother always wanted the shine without the grind. Even as kids, he'd steal the toy I built and then cry when it broke in his hands. He grew up tall, pretty, the kind of man folks trusted before he said a single damn word. I grew up meaner, heavier, carved by mistakes I didn't bother hiding. But we were family, and for far too long, that word acted like a blindfold I willingly tied around my own eyes. It was last winter when the truth finally crawled out from whatever pit they'd been hiding it in. My divorce had just gone through. Lisa and I had been oil and water for a long time. Me too rough, her too fragile, or at least that's the way she painted it when she left. Still, she'd show up sometimes, pretend she cared whether I was sleeping or eating or still waking up drenched in nightmares from the old MC days. Turns out, she had other reasons to linger. I learned about the affair the same way you learn most bad things, by accident. I walked into Murphy's feed store, boots muddy, hands numb from a busted fence post I'd been wrestling with since dawn. Old Murphy was behind the counter, giving me that look people wear when they know something you don't. After a few minutes of awkward small talk, he finally sighed and said, "You taking Caleb's woman shopping advice these days, or is he just doing all the picking for you?" I stared at him like he'd grown horns. Then he realized I didn't know. The rest spilled out ugly and slow. Lisa had been seen climbing out of Caleb's truck behind the roadhouse more than once. They weren't being subtle. Folks had been whispering for months, assuming I knew and just didn't care. I left the store numb, walking like someone else's legs were carrying me. Anger didn't hit me first. No, it was the embarrassment. A deep, gut-rotting humiliation that I, a man who'd survived cartel debt, biker politics, and more bar fights than birthdays, had been played by my own blood and the woman I once vowed to grow old with. But humiliation didn't last long. It melted into something hotter, sharper. A week later, the real betrayal dropped. I found the papers on my own damn kitchen table, folded neat, like someone thought good manners could soften a knife. At first I didn't understand what I was looking at. Legal forms, land transfer evaluations, a claim of partial ownership, Caleb's name, Lisa's signature, and both tied to marital property rights from a marriage that had been dead long before our signatures dried on the divorce decree. For a long moment, I just stood there. The refrigerator hummed behind me, a fly buzzed against the window, and the world held still like it was watching to see what I'd do. Caleb didn't just sleep with my ex-wife. He didn't just lie to my face for years. He tried to take the one thing I bled for, the ranch, my sanctuary, my last piece of unbroken ground. What he didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that this land held a secret neither court nor snake could touch. A contract older than my divorce, older than Caleb's treachery, signed with a man whose ghost still walked these fields beside me. But that card would stay hidden in my deck until the moment it hurt the most. I folded the forged documents, slipped them into my jacket, and stepped outside. The wind scraped cold across my face. Somewhere out there, my brother was smiling, thinking he'd finally beaten me. But blood ain't always family. And family sure as hell ain't always loyal. The road to vengeance doesn't start with rage. It starts with clarity. And that morning, staring out across the land that had shaped me, I felt something inside me settle into place. Steady, dark, unshakable. Caleb had declared war. He just didn't know what kind of man he'd woken up. I didn't go looking for Lisa that night. But fate has a funny way of dragging the right devils into your path when your blood's already running hot. I rode into town on my old Harley, black paint chipped by time, pipes louder than my better judgment, telling myself I only needed supplies, nails, diesel, maybe a bottle to keep the cold from crawling too far into my bones. But deep down, I knew I was circling her like a wolf that smelled something foul in the wind. The neon sign of the sundown bar flickered like it was on its last breath. Her car was parked crooked out front, same silver sedan she drove the day she left me. I stared at it for a long moment, the rage in me rising and falling like a tide. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to confront her or just drive off into the dark. But when you run from truth, it only chases you harder. I pushed through the bar door. The place smelled like old beer, leather, and cheap perfume. It used to be our spot, back when we were young and stupid enough to think love was stronger than the lives we lived. Now, standing in that doorway, all I felt was a familiar ache in my jaw, the kind that came right before a fight. She saw me before I saw her. Her shoulders stiffened. Her smile, always a pretty lie, cracked like thin ice. "John," she said, voice small, "didn't expect to see you here." "Funny," I answered. "You've been surprising the hell out of me lately." Something in her eyes twitched. Guilt, maybe, or fear. Hard to tell. Lisa always had a face built for performance. I pulled up a chair across from her. Didn't ask, didn't need to. She wrapped her hands around her glass like it was a shield, but all it did was highlight the nervous tremor she couldn't hide. "Caleb," I said, just his name, nothing more. Her breath caught. "John, I can explain." "No," I cut her off. "You can tell the truth, for once." She looked down at the wet ring her drink had left on the table. Her lips pressed together. And then, piece by rotten piece, the whole damn scheme spilled. They hadn't started seeing each other after the divorce. It had been going on before, months before, while she was crying about how distant I'd become, how cold the MC had made me, how she felt abandoned. She was warming my brother's bed. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she whispered. "That line's older than both of us," I said. Her face tightened, but she kept talking. She told me Caleb had convinced her she deserved more, that I'd never change, that the ranch, my ranch, was something she had earned by surviving all those years with me. According to him, a little piece of my land was the least the world owed her. I felt something inside me turn to stone. But the worst part wasn't the affair. It wasn't even the betrayal. It was the paperwork. Lisa admitted they'd been digging through old files in her storage unit, looking for anything that could tie her financially to the ranch. What they found was the prenup her lawyer convinced her to sign 20 years ago. A clause neither of us had paid attention to, one that stated she could claim partial value of any shared homestead development if the marriage lasted more than a decade. They thought that clause was a weapon. They thought it proved the ranch was partly hers. But they didn't know the whole story. They didn't know about him. I leaned back in my chair and looked at her, really looked. The woman who once promised me forever now sat trembling like she expected me to reach across the table and throttle the truth out of her. But violence wasn't what filled me. Clarity, a calm so unnerving it made her flinch. "You think you and Caleb can take the ranch?" I said quietly. "But you don't know what you're touching." She blinked, confused. "What are you talking about?" I almost smiled. Almost. "You ever wonder why Sam Rourke's name was on the deed the first few years? Why I didn't put it under mine until after he died? Sam, the closest thing I'd had to a father, an old biker with knuckles like gravel and a heart that beat only for freedom in the open road. He gave me the land, but he didn't give it free. He made me sign a contract, a binding one that stated the ranch could only remain valid as mine if it stayed under sole personal operation by the intended heir, meaning no spouse, no sibling, no partner could ever claim ownership. If someone tried, the property reverted to the trust he built, a secret contract, locked and legal, ironclad. Lisa stared at me, confusion melting into something like dread. "You don't have it," she said. Caleb said. "I don't," I interrupted. "My lawyer does, along with every notarized update Sam made before he died." Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. And in that moment, watching her face pale under the yellow bar lights, the rage inside me didn't explode. It focused, sharper than a blade. "Lisa," I said softly, "you and Caleb are about to walk into a war you can't win. And the worst part? You picked the wrong man to bet against." She swallowed hard. "John, I never wanted to hurt you. You just wanted what was mine." Silence settled. Heavy. Final. I stood, hands steady, mind clearer than it had been in years. This wasn't about heartbreak anymore. This was strategy. And revenge, the kind that doesn't rely on fists or bullets, was already unfolding. I walked out of that bar without looking back. Her voice called my name once, maybe twice, but the engine of my Harley drowned it out as I rode into the night. Behind me, a chapter had closed. Ahead, a confrontation was coming, one only blood enemies or broken brothers ever truly understand. And Caleb, he was about to learn that some men don't lose what they love quietly. Caleb always had a talent for showing up exactly when you least wanted to see him. So it didn't shock me when, 3 mornings after my talk with Lisa, a shiny black SUV rolled up my dirt road like it owned the place. The tires kicked up dust that hung in the cold air, drifting across my yard like smoke from an old battlefield. I was repairing the fence line again. Anger gives a man energy, and I'd been burning through mine like diesel poured on dry brush. The hammer paused mid-swing when I heard the door slam. Caleb stepped out first. Designer jeans, expensive boots, a leather jacket with more fashion than function. He looked like the kind of man who took selfies in gym mirrors, not someone who'd ever shoveled manure or ridden through a storm with numb fingers wrapped around handlebars. Behind him came a lawyer. Sleek suit, perfect hair, the kind of grin that suggested he billed by the smirk. Caleb smiled wide, too wide. "Morning, brother." He hadn't called me that since we were teenagers. The word felt like a stone thrown at my ribs. I set the hammer down slowly. "You're trespassing." He laughed, like we were kids again, like he could charm his way out of the grave he was digging. "Come on now, no need to get hostile. We just came to clear a few things up." "Funny," I said. "That's exactly what I told Lisa before she started spilling every lie you two cooked up." His smile twitched, just a little. A small crack, but enough. The lawyer stepped forward. "Mr. Harwood." "John," Caleb cut in. "Call him John. He's still family." I stared at Caleb until the smile finally fell off his face like wet ash. The lawyer cleared his throat. "Mr. Harwood, we're here today to formally notify you that Ms. Harwood, your ex-wife, has exercised her legal right to claim a portion of the ranch's value. Given that your brother has agreed to help maintain the property, the two of them intend to file for joint operational rights." I didn't blink, didn't breathe. Not because I was shocked, hell, I'd already known this was coming, but because I wanted to let the moment marinate. Let them think they'd knocked me off balance. Caleb folded his arms. "This is what we should have talked about months ago. But you always get emotional, John. You take everything personal." I stepped closer. Not fast, just steady. He flinched. "You slept with my wife," I said quietly. "And now you're trying to take my home." His throat bobbed. The lawyer jumped in again, voice too high. "As we explained, Mr. Harwood, the marital property clause—" "You think I haven't read the damn prenup?" I snapped. "Both of you are snakes, but at least snakes aren't stupid." Caleb's face reddened. "Watch yourself, big brother." I took another step toward him. This time he didn't hold his ground. "I'm watching myself," I said, "and I'm watching the two of you walk into a storm you don't understand." He clenched his jaw. "We're not backing off. The ranch is ours too, whether you like it or not. We've already filed the initial paperwork. And believe me, we've got enough proof to show the court that you didn't build this place alone. Proof. A word men like Caleb love to use when they're bluffing." I forced a smile. "Is that so?" Caleb nodded, triumphant. "Yeah, we've got witnesses, financial records, statements." "Statements?" I asked. "From who? The same people who saw you sneaking Lisa out of your truck behind the roadhouse? The same folks who told me you've been bragging about taking this place?" That got him. His eyes flicked sideways. The lawyer shifted uncomfortably. It was time to twist the blade. "You know," I said, "I talked to Rourke's old accountant last night." Caleb stiffened. "I also talked to the surveyor who updated the boundary lines 15 years ago, and the local clerk who still remembers notarizing a certain document with Sam's name on it." The lawyer frowned. "What document?" I shrugged. "Guess you'll find out soon enough." Caleb stepped closer, dropping the charm completely now. "What the hell are you pulling, John?" "What you should have expected," I answered, a counterpunch. He grabbed my jacket, stupid. He'd forgotten I'd spent half my life in bars where grabbing a man was the kind of thing that ended relationships, teeth, or both. I didn't swing, didn't shove, didn't even raise my voice. I just looked him dead in the eyes and said, "The land isn't yours. It was never yours. And the man who gave it to me made damn sure no traitor could ever take it." Caleb's grip loosened. "What?" "The contract," I said. "The one you and Lisa don't know exists. The one that makes your whole case worthless." He stepped back, rattled. "You're lying." "If I were lying," I said, "I'd be angry. I'm not. I'm calm." And he knew what that meant. Every fight we ever had growing up, every time he pushed too far, my calm was the warning he ignored right before things went bad for him. The lawyer tugged Caleb's sleeve. "We should go." I watched them retreat to the SUV. Caleb paused with his hand on the door, eyes full of something I hadn't seen in years. Not guilt, fear. "We're not done," he said. "No," I answered. "We're just getting started." The SUV tore off, sending dust swirling around me like smoke from a gunshot. I walked back to the fence slowly, breathing deep. My heart was steady. My thoughts clearer than a mountain sky after rain. This wasn't going to be settled with fists or bullets. Not yet, anyway. This was paperwork warfare. Truth sharpened into a blade. A trap set with patience, precision, and the kind of loyalty Caleb never understood. But if he pushed, if he kept coming, then the brother he betrayed would show him exactly why the club used to call me Dead Calm, the man who only gets quiet right before the violence starts. The night before the hearing, the ranch felt different. Still, quiet. Like the land itself knew a reckoning was coming. I sat on the porch with a mug of bitter coffee and the secret contract spread across my lap, Sam Rourke's handwriting looping across the pages. rough and sharp, just like the man had been. Every time I looked at his signature, the knot in my chest loosened a little. Sam didn't just give me a piece of land, he gave me a shield against the kind of betrayal I was now living through. And tomorrow morning, that shield would become a blade. I didn't sleep, didn't try. The past was loud in my head, nights riding with the MC, fists in alleyways, engines roaring down highways where trouble always rode pillion. I'd walked away from that life to build something cleaner, quieter. But justice, real justice, rarely came quiet, and Caleb had chosen war. The courthouse in our county looked more like a rundown library than a place where lives got rearranged. The air inside smelled of dust and old wood polish, and the fluorescent lights hummed like impatient bees. Caleb and Lisa were already there, sitting side by side like a couple carved out of smugness and desperation. Caleb wore a new suit, one he couldn't afford without dipping into money that wasn't his. Lisa's makeup was layered thick enough to hide a guilty conscience, but not enough to hide the tremor in her hands. Their lawyer approached me with the smile of a man convinced he's already won. "Mr. Harwood," he said, "this will be quick. There's really nothing to contest." I didn't answer. I just handed him the folder. His smile wavered. He opened it, skimmed the first page. Then his eyebrows shot up so fast they practically escaped his forehead. "What is this?" he muttered. "Binding property trust agreement," I said. "Signed by Samuel Rourke. Notarized. Filed. Active." He flipped to another page, then another. The confidence drained from his face like someone had unplugged him from his power source. This overrides the prenup." "It does more than that," I said. "It nullifies any external claim on the ranch. Anyone trying to take operational control loses any rights to it, automatically." The lawyer swallowed. "And you kept this quiet?" "Not my job to educate thieves," I said. Caleb approached, irritation in his steps. "What's taking so?" He saw the papers. His face drained of color. "No," he whispered. "No, this can't be real." "Oh, it's real," I said. "Real enough that any judge with a pulse will throw out your claim before lunch." Lisa pushed forward, voice cracking. "John, why didn't you tell me about this before the divorce?" I laughed, a low, humorless sound. "Because, Lisa, secrets are only useful when the wrong people don't know about them." We entered the courtroom. The judge was a no-nonsense woman with eyes that could peel paint. She listened to both sides. Caleb's lawyer stumbling over legal jargon, trying to make a case out of shreds, while I stood calm, hands clasped behind my back. Then it was my turn. I approached the bench, placed Sam's contract before her, and said only one thing. "This is the truth." She read in silence. The room was so still I could hear Lisa's shaky breathing. After 5 long minutes, the judge set the papers down. "Mr. Harwood," she said, looking at Caleb, "this contract predates any prenuptial agreement and supersedes any marital claim. Your petition is dismissed." Caleb's mouth fell open. The sound that escaped him wasn't anger, it was disbelief breaking into panic. "As for you, Ms. Harwood," the judge continued, directing her attention to Lisa, "your filing is not only invalid, but your attempt to claim property under false pretenses may expose you to further legal consequences, should Mr. Harwood choose to pursue them." Lisa covered her mouth. "Your Honor, please, Court dismissed." The gavel hit wood, sharp, final. It was over, not with violence, not with chaos, but with truth, cold and precise. Caleb rushed up to me in the hallway, eyes wild. "You set us up. You planned this." "No," I said, leaning in close. "You set yourself up the second you thought you could take what wasn't yours." He grabbed my arm. His fingers shook. "We're brothers." "Blood doesn't make a man loyal," I answered. "Choices do." I peeled his hand off me, one finger at a time. "You chose betrayal." He stood there, trembling with rage, but too afraid to swing. He knew better. I wasn't a man he wanted to push when I was this calm. Lisa took a step toward me, eyes glossy. "John, I'm sorry. I'm done hearing you talk." I cut her off. "Save your apologies for someone who still believes you're capable of honesty." She recoiled like I'd slapped her. I walked out of the courthouse into the bright afternoon sun, the air crisp, clean, almost sweet. The land waited for me, my land, untouched, untakeable. As I rode home on my Harley, the engine growled beneath me like an old friend. For the first time in weeks, my chest felt light. On the horizon, the ranch rose up out of the earth, quiet, sturdy, loyal, the only thing in my life that never lied to me. And as the fence line came into view, the weight of everything settled inside me. Family isn't who shares your blood. Family is who would bleed with you, bleed for you, or let you bleed before they ever betrayed your trust. Caleb wasn't family. Lisa wasn't either. The land was. Sam was. My own damn scars were. And some things are worth fighting for until the dust finally settles.